I now call the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the motion standing in my name on the order paper. Mr. Speaker, shall we pick up where we left off last Tuesday, when we had an emergency debate about the government's accountability to Parliament over Peter Mandelson's appointment as our ambassador to the United States. The very next day, at Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister read out selective quotes from Sir Ollie Robbins' evidence to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee and deliberately left out critical sections to make it seem as if Sir Ollie Robbins' evidence had exonerated him. The Prime Minister told the House, and I quote, "No pressure existed whatsoever in relation to this case." That is not what the record shows. Let me read Sir Ollie Robbins' exact quote. "Throughout January, my office and the Foreign Secretary's office were under constant pressure. There was an atmosphere of constant chasing." So how can the Prime Minister tell us that Sir Ollie Robbins said no pressure existed whatsoever? Everybody heard what Ollie Robbins said. We are not here to test whether members have good hearing. People can go and look in Hansard. The question today, as the Speaker said, is whether this should go to the Privileges Committee, whether this House and Labour MPs really believe in full due process, whether Labour MPs have the integrity to refer the Prime Minister to the Privileges Committee, knowing what we all know and can all read in Hansard. The Ministerial Code is very clear. Ministers who mislead the House must correct the record, and I quote, "at the earliest opportunity." It is very obvious that what the Prime Minister said at the dispatch box was not correct. It's clear that full due process was not followed. If Labour MPs allow the whips to force them to block the consequences of these decisions, it will degrade not just them, but this House. The question is, what kind of people are they? Are they people who will live up to the promises they made about standards and the rules mattering, or are they people who abandon their promises to be complicit in a cover-up? Yes, I will give way.
To the right honourable lady. On the 4th of February, we passed our humble address here in this House with a unanimous vote of, well, a unanimous opinion of the whole House that all of the documents should be made available and published. And those that wait for the question. And those that were considered sensitive should go to the Intelligence and Security Committee. Her party accepted that amendment on the 4th of February. If she wasn't going to wait for the outcome of that, why is she moving this process today?
I think that is an excellent question. We asked for the release of documents, and then when the evidence came showing what the Cabinet Secretary had said in November 24 about what full due process was, it was very clear that those instructions had not been followed. We also know that this latest information about the problems with the security vetting did not come from the humble address, it came from a leak to The Guardian. So why should we wait for a never-never process that is clearly not happening? Even members of the Intelligence and Security Committee in that SA24 debate last week said that there were delays to the release of the documents. So, Mr. Speaker, members opposite want to pretend that this is something that only one party is doing. Can I remind them that this is a cross-party motion supported by independents, the Lib Dems, the DUP, the SNP, members from across this House? Calling this a stunt is disrespecting this House and disrespecting the Speaker. It's very obvious, listening to the media and their tweets, it's very obvious they've all been told to come here today, tell everybody it's a stunt, tell everybody it's a stunt. Why are they acting like sheep? Why are they acting like sheep? They should be better than that. We will be counting, by the way, some people might even be shouting bingo, at how many times people stand up and say that this is a stunt in this debate. We're looking forward to it. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, there is a... Yes, I will give way.
I'm grateful to my right honourable friend. I think she's being a little too harsh to the limited number of Labour MPs opposite. I mean, here we have the entire reputation of the Prime Minister of this country, the leader of their party, and they're not turning out for him because they know that he is now a laughingstock, and having called round them, they found out they had to put a 3-line whip to get them to protect his blushes. So, can my right honourable friend be a little bit kinder to the members opposite, especially the brave ones who are actually prepared to come out and defend the indefensible?
I thank my right honourable friend for that intervention. I will do my best to be kind, because he is right. There are more people here today than there were last time, so the whips have really been working hard in the last 7 days. Last week, not a single Labour MP bothered to intervene. Now, we've got a second one. I'm going to take an intervention from the right honourable gentleman, and then I'll come to the Labour MP.
Very grateful to the Leader of the Opposition. She's right to highlight the cross-party nature of this motion and also question the applicability of a whip in refusing a motion before the House. Does she not agree, and should Labour MPs not consider that if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear?
The honourable gentleman makes an excellent point. I completely agree with him, and in fact I will be making that case in due course, but I will give way to the honourable gentleman.
Well, I thank her for giving way. And a moment ago, she talked about selective quoting, and I'm sure that she would not want to selectively quote Sir Ollie Robbins herself. So could she tell us what the rest of that quote was? And when he talked about pressure, was he talking about pressure to deliver a decision in time for President Trump's inauguration, or was he saying that he felt pressure to materially change what that decision would be? Because that is quite an important distinction, is it not?
It is quite important, and if it was, why didn't the Prime Minister say so last week? Why didn't he say no pressure whatsoever? He should go and read the Hansard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, I will give way on that point.
Right, friend, for giving way on that point. Are we really suggesting in this debate in this chamber that anyone who does not fully, comprehensively, without any hesitation, pass vetting should be given the most important role in our ambassadorship? The opposition seem to be suggesting that someone who is borderline, that there are any red flags, should be put in this sort of role. Is that not absolutely extraordinary?
That's not due process.
It is extraordinary, and the evidence which we've heard from the Foreign Affairs Select Committee this morning is only making this matter worse for the Prime Minister. So it is very wrong for them to be talking about a stunt. This is about the integrity of this House. Why is the Privileges Committee only a political stunt when Labour is in the dock? Do they still believe that honesty and accountability matter when it is one of their own? Do they believe that Labour Prime Ministers should be held to the exact same standards that they held Conservative Prime Ministers to? Or do they believe that there should be an honesty discount because the Prime Minister is Labour? The fact that there are so few cabinet ministers sitting on the front bench, they've had to dig deep to the bottom of the barrel for junior ministers to come and sit there, I think shows that they're struggling to get support for this. But let me tell Labour, I'm going to make some progress, Mr. Speaker. I would say very gently, in fact kindly, I would say kindly to Labour MPs, as I've been asked to, that if they vote against this motion today, they are admitting that Labour has lower standards and should be held to a lower standard than everyone else. Because when they were elected, they promised their constituents integrity and higher standards, and I'm sure for most of them at the time they meant it. This country is the mother of all parliaments. This vote today is about Parliament. It's not about the Labour Party. It is about the Prime Minister being held to account. To those people saying this is a stunt, this is about whether the Prime Minister is accountable, not just to the opposition, but to them and their own constituents. Members opposite may believe that the Prime Minister is telling the truth. As the Speaker said, They are not being asked whether the Prime Minister is telling the truth. They are being asked whether the committee should investigate whether the Prime Minister told the truth. That is a different thing. The question is whether there is a case to answer that he misled this House and has failed to correct the record. Yes, I will give way.
Can I thank the right honourable member for giving way? The British public are already fed up with politicians. We see that in general election and the low turnout rate. What we have here is a prime example of why the British public has lost confidence. We are trying to shield and hide from the public the truth. Does the right honourable member agree that in order to restore that trust, this Prime Minister must be put in front of a committee?
I do agree that this is a matter of trust with the public. We have to show that we do things properly here. As I was saying, Mr. Speaker, the question is whether there is a case to answer that the Prime Minister misled this House and has failed to correct the record. If there is a credible case that he did, then this matter should be referred to the Committee of Privileges. Those are the rules of the House. Let me quickly run through the facts to make sure that every Labour MP hears them. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister appointed Peter Mandelson before security vetting was granted, in direct contravention of the advice given to him on the 11th of November 2024 by the then Cabinet Secretary. That is not due process. The Prime Minister's own National Security Advisor described the appointment and due diligence as weirdly rushed, and the Foreign Office weren't asked to feed in. That is not due process. The chair of the Labour Party has a lot to say, so I'm going to give way and let her say what it is that she wants to. Would you like to speak up? Yes.
The Cabinet Secretary said that it was due process.
Mr. Speaker, I think we have, Mr. Speaker, I think we have another minister who has just come to the dispatch box and said something that is quite different. Simon Case, the then Cabinet Secretary, has set out what the full due process was. A note from the Cabinet Minister a year after the appointment, after Peter Mandelson had been sacked, after I asked questions at the dispatch box, is not an exoneration, it is part of the cover-up. Mr. Speaker, we have been told by Sir Ollie Robbins, that the former Permanent Secretary of the Foreign Office, that the government showed a dismissive attitude to vetting and even argued that Peter Mandelson did not need any vetting. That is not due process. I'll give way in a moment. We have been told that Number 10 put constant pressure on the Foreign Office to approve the application. That is not due process. Sir Philip Barton, the former Permanent Secretary of the Foreign Office, said he was, and I quote, presented with a decision that there was no space for dialogue. That's Philip Barton this morning. He also confirmed that the normal order is vetting and then announcement. But in this case, the announcement was before the vetting. That is not due process. I'll give way to the honourable gentleman.
First of all, can I thank the opposition leader for bringing this forward and for their introduction. Does the opposition leader agree that there is a very dangerous pattern emerging in government judgment and bypassing vetting to appoint Lord Mandelson, a man with a well-documented security concerns? And does the opposition leader also express concern about handpicking an Attorney General whose hands are still warm from the working of defending Gerry Adams against the very victims of IRA terror? It is little wonder that the people of this nation are concerned out there in the streets. They're worried, they're concerned, and well done to the opposition leader in bringing this forward.
Order. Sorry. You're straying outside the debate, Mr. Shannon, and we mustn't do that. Convene.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am concerned about the Prime Minister's judgment on all manner of issues, not just the one that we're discussing today. But we've heard this morning, Mr. Speaker, that even the Prime Minister's former Chief of Staff says that it shouldn't have been him doing the due diligence, and that what he got back from Mandelson wasn't the full truth, but the Prime Minister appointed Peter Mandelson anyway. That's Morgan McSweeney saying that is not full due process. On several counts, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that full due process was in fact not followed in this appointment. They shouldn't worry, I will let them give way because I want them to make fools of themselves at every opportunity. So just be patient, I will give way in a moment. Even the Prime Minister's current position, Mr. Speaker, contains a glaring logical inconsistency. How can he say that full process was followed and at the same time fire Sir Ollie Robbins for not following process? If the honourable gentleman would answer that question, that would be fantastic.
I asked the shadow opposition leader the questions. That's how it works on an intervention. And can I also suggest to her that if she wants backbenchers to support her motion, she shouldn't be insulting us and calling us shit. Now, I think that the critical question that a lot of backbenchers are wanting to know here is why now? Why, when the Foreign Affairs Select Committee has not concluded its investigations, has she brought this motion forward now? Is it because there is local elections next week, or is that a coincidence?
I'm sorry. The decision was made on the letter that's been sent to me, not on whether somebody may be meeting somewhere else. It is judged on that merit. I don't need to be questioned again.
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable gentleman would like his ministerial job back. That's the only explanation for why he was asking that question. So I did ask, if full due process was followed, why was Sir Ollie Robbins sacked? No answer. The Privileges Committee is clear that misleading intentionally or recklessly, refusing to answer legitimate questions, or failing to correct misleading statements impedes or frustrates the functioning of the House and is a contempt. That's what the Privileges Committee says. The Prime Minister has not answered legitimate questions on this appointment. They were all there at PMQs when I asked him whether he spoke to Peter Mandelson before the appointment about 6 times, and the Prime Minister refused to answer. Contempt. This is no longer just about the appointment of Peter Mandelson or the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. This is about whether or not the Prime Minister should be referred for contempt of Parliament. The Honourable Member for Warwick and Leamington said last week, I don't know if he is in the chamber, he said last week that the Prime Minister is a man of the utmost decency who would never, ever lie. If that is the case, they should welcome this chance to prove that. If they really believed that statement, they would not have to be whipped to block an investigation. The privileges... Yes, I will give way to the Right Honourable Gentleman.
I'm grateful for the Right Honourable Lady giving way. She will know that I was never a fan of Boris Johnson. No. You did it so well. But when there was a similar motion for the House to refer Mr Johnson to the Privileges Committee, his side was not whipped. Can she confirm that? And can she question why the government is whipping its side on this matter?
That is an excellent question from the Right Honourable Gentleman. I can confirm that this side was not whipped. I can also confirm that the leader of the head of the Privileges Committee was a former acting leader of the Labour Party. We trusted this House to do the right thing. Why can they not do the same? Why? Mr. Speaker, the Privileges Committee is made up mostly of Labour MPs. Are they saying that they do not believe that their own colleagues would give the Prime Minister a fair hearing? Are they saying that? If this was just a bad decision that he's apologised for, then surely the Privileges Committee will find him not guilty. I give way to my Right Honourable friend.
Does my right honourable friend agree with me that the Prime Minister is pursuing a scorched earth policy? Advisor after civil servant has been chucked under the bus to save his skin, and now it is the turn of his own MPs. For if the Prime Minister had not misled the House, then the correct path is to go to the Privileges Committee so the Prime Minister can clear his name.
I do agree with my Right Honourable friend. This is a scorched earth policy, and they are the earth, and I'm afraid to say they are being scorched. Let me ask them this, Mr. Speaker. If the Prime Minister has nothing to hide, why is he whipping to avoid scrutiny? Why? Why is he whipping? They are being whipped today to exonerate him before the facts have even been tested. It is not for the first time I am having to tell Labour MPs that they are being stitched up. This is a man who has led them up and down so many hills. Our Education Secretary wants to intervene. Would she like to talk about the U-turn yesterday on social media? No, she doesn't want to. Shame, shame. U-turn, Mr. Speaker. We got our U-turn. They have to sit there looking embarrassed at every decision that they have to row back on. This is a man who has led them up and down so many hills. He sends them out to defend the indefensible even this afternoon, and it's a great effort by the whips, I must say. I know someone else wants to intervene. Please go on.
Scott Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do thank her for giving way. And of course, she's right that the Conservatives did get a free vote on the Partygate scandal. She chose to abstain, which is an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. The bigger disgrace, the bigger disgrace was voting against action on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bigger disgrace was voting against action on Owen Parson, and she voted against that. And other disgrace, whipped.
Mr. Speaker, I actually feel bad at having to make this explanation. And I say to my right honourable friend, I am trying to be kind, but there was no vote, so no abstention, because not a single one of us voted to block the investigation. This is a clear example of the sit down. Mr. Speaker, I'm not giving way. He's had his chance, Mr. Speaker. This just goes.
If the Honourable Lady, Right Honourable Lady, gives way, that's fine. You've had one crack at the whip. I wouldn't try too many cracks.
Mr. Speaker, this is why I am telling. I know a lot of Labour MPs have not been in this situation before. They are being stitched up. I am trying to be helpful. This man has led them up so many hills and down again. U-turn after U-turn. I talked about banning social media for children. There was also a U-turn on the pensions mandation. This is a government that does not know what it is doing. It is a government that does not know what it is doing. And I think it's very valiant of them to come out to defend the Prime Minister. This is despite the fact that he took the whip away from MPs who wanted to lift the two-child benefit cap. And then he did it anyway. The member for Hayes and Harlington had the whip removed for opposing the two-child benefit cap. Then the Prime Minister U-turned. The member for York Central had the whip removed for voting against the Prime Minister's welfare reforms. Then he ditched the reforms. And then the member for Penrith, who had the whip removed for opposing the family farm tax. The Prime Minister's ditched that, but the member for Penrith still doesn't have the whip back. And this matters, Mr. Speaker.
I know. It is about the privilege motion. I know you're developing a theme, but I think we've run out of theme.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You're absolutely right. I'm just pointing out the question, why is this a whip vote? It will still happen anyway. This man has ruined the reputation of the Labour Party, has not been loyal to his own MPs, and I don't think that they are united. Morgan... Yes, I will give way.
Dr. Luke.
When the Prime Minister came in, he said he wanted to do things differently. He's had not one but two opportunities to, in an emergency debate tabled by this side of the House, to come to the House and answer all these questions, so he wouldn't need to go to a Privileges Committee. Can she espouse on why he may not have come to the House to answer on both two occasions?
I think it is an excellent question from my honourable friend. Why not come to the House to correct the record at the earliest opportunity on multiple occasions? What is there to hide? We are hearing evidence in the select committees that is conflicting what is being said on the floor of the House. I would be very interested, by the way, if the Minister, when he is responding, is happy to repeat the Prime Minister's words at the dispatch box that there was no pressure whatsoever. Would he repeat that question? Would he repeat that statement? Let's see how brave he is. Mr. Speaker, this is absolutely critical. This cannot just be a debate about the Labour Party or a division between those who are on the inner circle and those who are on the outside. Again and again, we have seen the children of the chosen ones, people who had never been in Parliament before, getting all the best jobs. We now have the sacked Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. His wife is a whip, telling people to vote for a cover-up. That is not right. That is not right. They are hanging... She has been notified. She has been notified. I know they don't like it. Have I said something that is not true? No. I'm speaking the truth. I know it hurts, but someone has to point it out. They are hanging everyone else out to dry, and I cannot believe that Labour MPs are letting this happen again. I know that a lot of them are expecting a reshuffle after the May election. Let me tell them, it is not worth it. I say directly to those Labour MPs hoping to be ministers after May the 7th, you will condemn yourself to being sent out on the morning round to repeat things that you know are not true, that you don't believe in, and that you know will end in disaster. And they will end in disaster, Mr. Speaker, as everything the Prime Minister touches does. This vote should not be about loyalty to the Prime Minister, but about standards. Why should Labour MPs ruin their reputations to save a man who has never shown loyalty to them? He has shown that he will throw everybody under a bus. Sue Gray, Morgan McSweeney, Sir Chris Wilmord, Sir Ollie Robbins. Do Labour MPs really think that if this goes wrong, he's not going to throw all of them under a bus? There are some of them walking around Parliament telling everyone that they're going to be one-term MPs, and so it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter. Because when they leave this place, no one is going to remember what their whips told them to do. People will only remember that they voted for a cover-up. That is what will follow them around like a bad smell until the end of their careers. That's what's going to be in their Wikipedia entries. Yes, I will give way.
Would my right honourable friend agree with me that this issue will be resolved in one or two places? It will either be resolved in the Court of Public Opinion or in front of the Privileges Committee. And it's actually in the Prime Minister's interests to have it resolved by a cross-party committee of this House, which would give confidence to the public that the truth had been found, that the case had been made or not, and that they would have confidence going forward. The public will make up its own mind without the Privileges Committee.
Yes. That's right. The Honourable Gentleman is absolutely right. I trust the Privileges Committee to do the right thing, as I always have. And I've got some advice for Labour MPs. There is nothing wrong, yes, there is nothing wrong with giving your party leader the benefit of the doubt. There's nothing wrong with that. As a minister 4 years ago, I gave my party... I don't know why they're laughing. I haven't got to the punchline yet. Hang on, wait for it. As a minister 4 years ago, I gave my party leader the benefit of the doubt, but I trusted the Privileges Committee to do the right thing, even when it was led by a former leader of the Labour Party. We did not block the Privileges Committee looking to things, and the minute that I was asked to go out and say something that wasn't true, I resigned. None of them want to do that. I will always be able to hold my head up high because I did the right thing. I do not understand why Labour MPs are quite happy repeating things that aren't true. We have all seen the Hansard. That's the difference between them and us. When we get things wrong, we put our hands up and say so. They pretend, Mr. Speaker, they pretend that the wrong thing is actually the right thing. They pretend that the bad thing is actually a good thing because it's Labour MPs who are doing it. That's what they're being whipped to do today. It's the same way the Mandelson appointment happened. Because they thought they were appointing him, it must be a good thing. That's what's happening again today. They are being whipped to do the wrong thing. If they are telling the entire country that nothing matters, in a moment, if they are telling the entire country that nothing matters except avoiding scrutiny of this Prime Minister who won't answer questions at that dispatch box, then they're telling people that the Labour Party is not worth voting for. It does not exist. That this is not the Labour Party of Attlee and Bevan and Wilson. That Labour Party no longer exists because they would never do this. They would never be voting for someone who had stood at that dispatch box less than a week ago and read out doctored statements from the head of the Foreign Office like the Prime Minister did. Yes, I will give way. I will give way.
On the point of reading out statements, I thank the Right Honourable Lady for giving way. I can see that she's enjoying reading out her statement. But what I can't see is the case that she is making about the Privileges Committee. What I can't see is what she doesn't think is right about a criminal investigation, about inquiries that are consistently being made about the decision that was made that we have accepted was wrong. What's wrong with the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, and what's wrong with the processes that are in?
I'm sorry, you're out of scope. Come here.
Perhaps she should have just taken the whip's questions instead of messing that one up. She does raise an interesting point about the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. It's only looking at Mandelson. It's not looking into the issue of the Prime Minister misleading the House. Let's stop pretending that the Select Committee is a massive inquiry. It really isn't. Yes.
Mr. Rushworth, are you sure it's a point of order? Sure. Let's hear it.
A moment ago, the Leader of the Opposition described the statement read by the Prime Minister as doctored. Now, doctored is akin to saying that it was dishonest, that it was lying. Is that not unparliamentary language, Mr. Speaker?
Oh, no. As I suspected, it's not a point of order. You need to read the rule book. This is a substantive motion. This isn't the normal debate. So please, it might be helpful if you took some time out rather than questioning. You might be onto something, but it's not today.
Mr. Speaker, time and time again throughout this debate, I've seen Labour MPs stand up showing that they do not understand what the rules are or what this is about. This is not about whether or not, this is not about the specific statements, this is about whether or not we should have a referral to the Privileges Committee. They are moving the goalposts because they don't want to answer that simple question. And they've come up with all sorts of excuses. It is not an excuse to say that there is a war on. The Prime Minister has said repeatedly that we are not in this war. He can't have it both ways. At every turn, he has tried to deny this House full transparency over this appointment. We had a vote in the House for documents to be released, and yet we discover that documents are not being released. That is a contempt of this Parliament. Labour MPs supported that humble address because they knew that we needed to see the truth. Documents from that release show due process was not followed. The ISC is complaining that the documents are being delayed. We only discovered there were numerous problems with Mandelson's vetting because of a leak to The Guardian. The truth is being covered up. Today's vote is about whether they want to be complicit in this cover-up. If they vote against that investigation by the Privileges Committee, they are in this together. This motion is supported across the House, Mr. Speaker, including by Labour MPs, which is why they have to be whipped to vote against it. The member for Hull East was tweeting, saying that he was making a referral to privileges last week before he deleted that tweet. This week, he is calling it a stunt. Why? Who's twisting his arm? Why was it not a stunt last week when he was doing it, but it's a stunt this week when everybody else is doing it? Why? For those who are mindlessly repeating the lines the Labour whips have given them, may I remind them that it is also their job to hold the government to account and uphold the standards of our democracy. Appointing a known national security risk to be ambassador to the United States is a profound failure of government. Do they not think that it is important the Prime Ministers tell the truth on a matter of national security? Or do they think that this is an internal Labour Party matter that they can fix themselves? And for those people who believe that Andy Burnham is coming to rescue them, can I just say that if they vote against this investigation, there will be so much contempt for Labour that there is no by-election on this planet that Andy Burnham will be able to win. This is not an internal Labour Party matter, Mr. Speaker. Do they believe that when something is wrong, we should look into it? This is about whether they believe that Prime Ministers should not destroy the careers of civil servants to cover up for their own failures. I know it is very difficult for Labour MPs to walk through the lobby with other parties. But let me be clear what they are saying if they vote against this motion. Would they rather be on the side of Peter Mandelson, of convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, of Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle, on the side of the man who sacked Sir Chris Wormald, sacked Sir Ollie Robbins, Sue Gray? Is that what they came to Parliament for? Yesterday, we read that the honourable member for Stoke-on-Trent South said we should do this so she could pay off her new kitchen. Do they really want to tell their constituents that they voted against this inquiry because they are more concerned about their own personal finances than probity in public life? Because that is a shocking statement. Every MP voting on this motion today will need to examine their conscience on all sides of the House, Mr. Speaker. This is not a matter of party loyalty. It is a matter of what each and every one of us believes is right. They are being asked to defend a man who has let the country down, he has let Parliament down, and let's be honest, he has let the Labour Party down. So I say to Labour MPs today, you can defend the Prime Minister today, and there are enough of you to get through the vote, but you will be complicit in a shameful abandoning of promises made to the electorate, promises every Labour MP stood on. It is up to them what kind of MP they choose to be. They can choose to live up to their promises on standards to ensure proper scrutiny takes place and allow the Privileges Committee to get to the bottom of this, or they can choose to put party before country. Their vote will define them, and the public is watching. They say it's a stunt, then let the inquiry expose it. They say there's no evidence of misleading the House, then let the committee test it. They say the Prime Minister has nothing to hide, then they shouldn't vote to stop the Prime Minister being scrutinised. They don't have to defend this. They can still do the right thing. They can show that Parliament matters. It matters more than any party or any faction. They can vote to enhance Parliament, or they can vote and prove the worst fears of people who think there is one rule for Labour and another rule for everyone else. Mr. Speaker, I commend this motion to the House.